Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another Saturday Night Sci-Fi Shadow Chat. Tonight we will be talking yet again about alternate dimensions and realities. Last week, our good friend Brian and a few others in the chat decided we were going to talk about weird World War II, which for me totally qualifies for an alternate dimension. But I wanted to bring up a couple things, talk about a couple things. I've read a couple of books lately, and they really got me, into the whole idea of, what's okay, what's too much, what's too gonzo when it comes to alternate dimensions and realities. Over here to the other side of me is Omanal, and we will be. There's Brian right now as we speak. The link's there for anybody who wants to join in. Got to save a spot for the boy. If he gets done with his chores, he will be joining us and, throwing a wrench into all our plans. So, Ullman, how you doing tonight?
Just getting old, but I like it better than the other option. So far, so good.
Any day above dirt, my friend. Any day above dirt.
That's right.
There he is. I'm always so jealous, man. Every time you're on the show, no matter what show it is, you're just, no stress, man. Just going to relax and chill with my friends. And I got to sit up straight and.
Well, I would sit up straight, except that right now is, like we're talking about it is, I overdid it this week on my leg going up and down dams. And so now I'm like, so I feel like I pulled something. So I'm going to be laying down regardless.
Right on.
But this is why we play role-playing games, to not be ourselves with all our frail mortalities.
Yep. I've been really blessed, all things considering what we've gone through over the last couple of years. Being a little pudgy and a smoker, and I'm pretty grateful that I still get to play these silly games and hang out with you silly folks. So, do you do a lot of alternate dimensions or reality games?
I would love to, but I have not. I like reading some of them, but does D&D count for some things with the Manual of the Planes? I'm not sure if you guys can talk about that. That's
absolutely. It's it's one of the more common books out there, but I just read a really good, interesting book. Jade gave me access to a bunch of PDFs for the game that I was just running, and one of them, the main one that we were looking for, him and I, was the psionics book for I'm pretty sure it's Mongoose second edition.
Okay.
And it actually has, hey Mark, what's happening, man? You guys want to pop in? There's the link. It's got this really cool section on not just psionic agencies, but like this alternate dimension and realities, like organizations that I really absolutely love. I ran a campaign a long time ago where it was like a Stargate, but imagine if Stargate were the most capitalistic, thieving bastards you could imagine, and they would just open up a dimension, go in, and usually only run in like 150 feet, maybe a quarter mile tops, and just grabbing whatever they could and just coming back with it. Just grabbing the high-tech stuff. And I kind of based it off a comic book. I want to say that it was called Death's Head. It was this really weird Marvel comic book. It was kind of the same thing, but it had, some characters that might have been from other books. I don't know. It was just, it was like Stargate and Sliders, but with more, offensive gear, so they could just go in and just blast whatever and just take it and then pop right back. And 9 times out of 10, the other dimensions didn't know where these guys came from. They were just high tech, or maybe just magical. And sometimes the characters, I'd let them sneak stuff. It's like not tell their bosses that they got this device or that device, to make it kind of interesting. Kind of like stealing stuff. On their own. It's like, well, I'm not giving it to the Q or whoever. is in charge of the R&D for all the gear. They, figure it out and keep it and use it to, do the next job better. What's up, Brian?
What's up, guys?
Just hanging out, man. Just hanging out. Another busy day.
I'm going to say something with what Mark said here about alternate Earths. It's not, when I think alternate dimensions, that can be like a hollow world in the same world. What I don't like is when it's used to sort of as an excuse where you kind of run out of ideas and you just start throwing it in there. I would much rather it have its own, like you said, your own bureaucracy. The, how do I want to put this? The Council of Ricks for anyone that watches Rick and Morty, and where they have the different Ricks all in the same universe, or they have the Citadel, which has all the different Ricks from the different universes get together. And I said, okay, that seems kind of cool if you're doing it. I don't know. Sometimes the problem that I have with it is it just seems that it's lazy writing. Whereas I like the idea of multiple dimensions where people go into it, but they're completely different. So it's not that you have the same characters that are just different, like evil Spock and evil Kirk. It doesn't have that.
That was one of the first best alternate, realities was the mirror. As a matter of fact, of all the Star Treks, no matter what iteration it was, those were my favorite episodes. I don't know why. Maybe because it was darker and more realistic than the super utopian Federation. It was more fun. And, it's a shame they never did an entire series like that, in my humble opinion. If they would have done, Mirror, the series, oh, man, that would have been freaking epic.
Well, they did do that with J.J. Abrams. They did the whole
cool.
alternate. I mean, whether you like it or not, they did. And let's be honest.
I never saw those, but I get where you're going with that. No, but I mean, like the full-on, darker aspect. Because I, from what I saw, the Abrams movies, they were just oh my goodness, Brian, you can come on back. We'll let you get a word in edgewise. One of these minutes. But I agree. The Marvel and DC, the kind of way they did it, you gotta give them, a little bit of leeway because they're trying to hang on to all these copyrights and making, an alternate Spider-Man. Well, then they gotta, fill out the paperwork and claim that as another one of their properties, and that stuff adds up. If you ever look at like an old Games Workshop book with all the copyrights, or a Palladium book, that crap gets expensive only to, rarely use it, except to that one, 3 or 4 pages in a book, and then on to the next thing. We got to get another copyright. I get it, but
I don't mind if it's different dimensions. What I don't like is, and I know how you feel about this, and I felt like this as a kid, is I don't like multiple resurrections. Otherwise, you just might as well go, hey, we lost Bob. Let's go into another dimension and pull him through. And look, we have a new Bob, And I would, that's why I kind of like where they have the astral plane. I like the, it's not that I mind alternate dimensions. I just want them to overlap. I mean, that's the problem I have with it, is you're going to have to keep track of it. And it's cool in certain ways, but I'm just not a big fan. It's probably because it's overused, just like time travel. Time travel can be kind of cool, but it's so overdone. And then you get so many paradoxes, and then you go through it, and then you start changing everyone in, and then you're going, well, you know what? I might as well bring in the evil party that's identical as all your other characters, and it just feels so worn out. In my opinion, which it's funny. It's just, but
sorry about that, guys.
Oh, that's fine.
No worries.
I wanted to talk about Mark. Mark's talking about the comic book stuff. Now, I was a huge Golden Age and Silver Age collector, right? Huge. And when DC did the Crisis stuff, trying to Crisis on Infinite Earths, trying to reimagine the whole thing. I think they ruined it. And this is the reason why, is because they kept, but and Omen had mentioned that sometimes it could be lazy writing. So what they did is they started making these new dimensions, the new characters, so they can start these new storylines. But then when those storylines sucked, they just reinvented the whole. It's a new universe, so it's like then all of a sudden you have all this convoluted, just stories that if it doesn't work out, we're just going to reboot the whole damn thing. I mean, that's what the movies are like now too. It's like it's a new generation. Instead of creating new things, we're just going to reimagine. It's a new universe. This is a new take. Blah 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 blah. Well, what would have happened if Joe Simon and Jack Kirby and Jim Lee and Romita Jr. and all those guys in the 60s were like, you know what? Let's just rehash the old Golden Age stuff. And don't get me wrong, they did. They reimagined certain characters to bring them into a new line. But there wasn't a Fantastic Four Golden Age. That didn't exist. Spider-Man wasn't a amalgamation of really anybody. They brought Captain America from the Golden Age. But what if they had just that ability to just like, oh, let's just reboot the Golden Age and just rewrite it into the new era? It's laziness, in my opinion. It's lazy. Let's just keep the characters that have already existed and are famous and rechange them. But what they forget is like they're famous for a reason, because they became famous because of the way they are.
And what they did, the very exact things they did is what got them to where they were.
Exactly.
And to change all that is really, is kind of, to me, it's a kind of theft. You know what I mean?
Well, I don't know. I want to say some things because I know like Michael Moore and not Michael Moore. What is the but the one that did like the Bane and stuff like that. We made what was
Alan Moore?
Alan Moore, that's who I'm thinking of. Where he redid that. I don't mind it. What I don't want is I don't want all the different Batmans all coming together in one thing.
Like they're doing with Spider-Man. Yeah.
I
freaking hate that.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have with it is I don't mind if it's self-contained its own universe and say, hey, look, we're going to do an adult-themed Batman over here. It's going to be a bit darker. It's going to be a bit more gritty and realistic. And say, hey, look, we're going to have this. And that's okay as long as you don't confuse the two. I'm all right with that. But again, the problem that I have with a lot of times when they say multiverses is that they all try intertwining them and get them all together. And then we get the Spider-Man of the multiverse. And as much as I did like Spider-Man No Way Home, I actually thought that was a very, very good and well done. And it paid homage to all three of the Spider-Man actors and the villains. I thought that was a really good job.
But it's a story. It's a story specifically on the re-envisioning of everything. And it's kind of like a wink, wink. It's well done. Don't get me wrong. That's a good movie. But the whole story is to address those multiple takes on the same fucking person. And it's just, if it's done good, it's done well, right? But the thing is, it's mostly not done well. And it's like, then we get like the new Star Trek universe. It sucks. It's Kirk is not the Kirk that we grew up with, that people fell in love with. He loving the green skin. It's just a re-envisioning. And you know what? The kids of now, they didn't like it.
I know.
So it's like
there was no history to like.
No.
Do you guys remember the Doctor Who episodes? There was like the 3 doctors, the 5 doctors, the 7 doctors. When they would bring them all together. For me, that was actually an acceptable, thing, because you were looking at these actors who were getting ready to die. I mean, literally. John Pertwee and Tom Baker. They're running at the end of their freaking careers. This is their last. It was a tribute. To what they had done and what had come after them. And the characters wouldn't get along and they bicker. It was charming, and it was done with, you know, a certain amount of love and reverence to these actors and the characters. And that's like the only time I've ever seen it done where, you know, you've got the same character and it doesn't feel like, you know, them trying to sell, you know, a couple of different versions of the same comic book at the same time, you know, like Spider-Man 2099 and, you know,
Hey, I like Spider-Man 2099, but it was a different
totally
character.
The Ultimates was pretty good.
It was a different
Right,
character. That's the important part I have is
Right.
If,
but
if
there was a time when there was like Peter Parker's Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, and probably two others I don't remember. You know,
Yeah. But they were in the same timeline. They were just doing different things, but they were the same person set in the same world in the same like linear, you know, line. But like when you're talking about Doctor Who, it's different. And the reason why is it started where that form of himself disintegrates and reconstitute in something new. So that's completely sellable.
Well, not only that is they travel through time, so they would likely meet each other at some point.
Yes.
And dimensions in space.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I don't know if they were dimensional though.
I think
that's what TARDIS stands for. Time and relative space, dimensions in space, whatever.
I don't think I think they share the same dimensional plane, but in just different times and spaces within it.
But when it comes down to it is, and this is what I think was the whole part, when it's done well, it works. The problem is that 90% of the time it's not done well. And whenever we're going to be talking about with players, I think that it kind of cheapens it if you go, okay, well, here's your character. Oh, you're going to just pull you another character from a different universe. And it's kind of fun.
I've never really seen that. I've never seen that done in a game before.
Well, that's because you didn't have a player like me that would have been screaming holy bloody murder of like, yeah, I want to go find my other alternate self and bring him back in so I can do this. It's the evil. Yeah, I mean that's anyway.
Actually, I have to take that back. There's a reason why. Because my regular gaming group was a fan of the movie The One with Jet Li, and they would have just gone and used their soul-sucking weapons like Stormbringer and killed their alternate selves to gain their own power and become, you know, an army of.
How does that even work? I mean, there has to be if the alternate dimension, Brian, somewhere in the dimensions of dimensions, keeled over because that one night, and I know that night I could have died, but I didn't. I should have been sucking that energy down.
Well, I think you have to do it yourself. One of you would have to kill you, and then by killing yourself, you kind of vampirically drain your own essence and become more you until you're one.
You know, you have to chop that head off. No. The whole point I think of this is, and I enjoyed, which I recommend for the movie was, what is it? Everywhere, Everything, All at Once with Michelle Yeoh.
I haven't seen that.
That one.
I saw it last week. It came out probably about 6 or 8 months ago. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun where they basically go over and they're talking to Michelle Yeoh's characters like, you must be the one because you never accomplished anything. Of all your alternates in the entire universe, you never did anything because you never committed to a single thing to become great at. And so
kind of like Harold Rimmer in Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
Ace Rimmer. Which was, you know what? When the first time I saw that, I almost freaking, you know, got a little misty because of the implications of what it was. You know, he was the only one of all of those other aces that were freaking heroes, you know, beyond heroes. That's probably my favorite episode of Red Dwarf, just because it shows that we're just watching that one dimension, the crappiest of crappy dimensions, where all the characters are at their worst, and that's what we've been given. You know, what I
tell
mean?
you,
Where
Grant and Naylor's writing in that show is excellent. Some of the best. I mean, it is probably in my top 5 like favorite TV shows. It is it's a comedy, sci-fi, but guys, it is like well written. It's good. It's a really good, heartful show.
Hey, lady, Yeah, you know what? It really is up there. It's got these layers to it. The
Does.
average person just watch it and they're like, oh, okay, haha, funny. Slapsticky kind of humor. But you go to the next level and then the next level,
It's
and
got a lot of
before you
heart.
know it, yeah, I've watched every single episode, all the
Yep.
makings of, all
Yep.
the little things, and I got Jackie to watch the first episode, and he could only get to that one level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, but as time goes by, he'll one of these days he'll get to watch it and just
Hopefully.
go, oh my goodness.
I
This
I
is
was lucky
really
to introduce Mel to that show this year, and she loves it. It's one of her favorite shows. We watched it all in one sitting. It took us like a day, a full 24 hours. We
Yeah.
watched it.
Oh, good grief.
There are shows like that. Firefly has also got that effect for me that you want so much more and you're never going to get it.
Yeah.
It could have gone all over the place, and nope, it's this one, confined little thing, and it blows away things that are a million times bigger. It just everything about it is so much better, and we keep getting fed this garbage when it comes to sci-fi and fantasy. It's just like the absolute, it's like they scraped the bottom of the barrel and went, this is all you're getting. We're going to save the good stuff for the other dimensions. They get the good sci-fi, we get the crap.
I just don't think writing, I don't know who runs Hollywood. I mean, I don't know how these people get these jobs. They're not writers. They ain't worth a shit. They're not coming up with anything new. I shouldn't say that. They're not, very rarely are they coming up with something new. It's all just repurposed, fill in the check the boxes and the whatever. And it's sad.
So I'm going to bring this up is when, to be fair on this, until Fox became a major network, if we all remember when Fox was coming up as the fourth network,
Yep.
they
had some good shit.
Well, it was cutting edge. It was, things like, oh my God, this would never make a normal network TV at the time. And we're like, oh, okay. I mean, nowadays you get some of it from HBO, some of it's out there. I'm not saying there isn't some good sci-fi. I'm glad, some of it is that they go on a season too long, and we all know it.
Yeah.
You can feel it when they go over, when the writers aren't into it anymore. It's like, okay, it's time for you to end and move on. And we're all like, oh man, I wish they had more. No, you really don't wish that they had more, because they'll ruin it at the end if they do it. But
yeah, like what Bo was just saying here, you'd rather it, end too soon than to drag on.
I think
kind of like the last season of Babylon 5. That show was amazing. The first season, real hard to get through. 2, 3, and 4, and then once you and then season 5. Season 5 is like the last part of Lord of the Rings, the Scouring of the Shire. Nobody cared. Nobody freaking cared.
Well, to be fair on some of this, is you could tell Michael J. Straczynski had it without there. Now, let's not get too far from the topic, but some of it is that the networks cancel it. Babylon 5, I think, was about 5 or 10 years too late, or too early rather. If it had come out the era of DVDs where people could sit down and watch it front to back, like I could get into Babylon 5 until TNT got it, and their agreement was that they could watch, that they'd put the episodes every day, and I could watch it every day. We're going through that, and I think that's part of it. But look at Firefly, the executive just didn't care. She was, she canceled tons of stuff that were really good for certain things, but some of them just stank. Let's be honest. The writers ran out of material. They were told to do it. They're like, I'm here for a paycheck. But no, if we're going to talk alternate dimensions, is I don't mind the fact that if you go over and say, okay, you're in dimension A, you can go into dimension B, but I don't like it where there's multiples of the same characters. To me, it's very similar to D&D going to Ravenloft, D&D going into the City of Brass, D&D going into the astral plane. They're their own interdimensional stuff, and then I don't know quite how I feel about it because it's so cool, and then it's also so confusing. Numenera, I think, does where they combine. I mean, they just took everything, threw it against the wall, and says it works. And so you could have magic and science, and you're in the virtual world, you're in the real world, you're in multidimensional worlds. You can travel wherever. I'm
Hey,
okay
Sean.
with that. What's that?
Hey, Bo, the link's in there. If you guys want, I'll throw it up again.
I think another thing with television,
Yes,
there's so much of it. I mean, there are tons of channels, tons of streaming, and I just think they're just filling time slots in, hoping something sparks. Not really, because back in the day, you had 3 networks, and they had to pick shit that was good because they had other companies trying to pick shit that was good.
Well, you know, we say that, but I'll be honest. As I go back and look at Star Trek and removing my nostalgia glasses, it was pretty crap. I mean, compared to stuff that we have in the 80s, 90s, and later. But you have to understand
it evolves. It evolved.
Part of it is also people wanted episodic. You couldn't do soap operas because you couldn't expect people to watch every episode. You know, that was part of it, which
That's
is
weak as hell, though. I mean, if you think about it, back in the day, that's all people got. The black and white movie serials that you had to go to the theater because there was no TV. That's what we started the almost the whole genre on. Going to see Captain America or whatever in the theaters, and you'd spend the whole day at the theater. You'd get a cartoon or two, a bunch of serials, the news, the whole bit. You'd be there all freaking day, and everything was episodic. Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers. You had to come back the next weekend to see the next one, and then somewhere along the line, we just got, weaned away from that into other things where it's like, you're 22 or 44 minutes plus commercials, and you didn't have to think. It was all right there. It's gonna end on a not a cliffhanger, not a unresolved issue. It's just gonna end, and you can just go about your business. That was like the death of good writing, in my opinion, when we couldn't hang on to the idea of chapters. It's all right here in this neat little package. Consume, and then come back next week for another episode of more drivel.
Well. Let's be fair on some of this. I know we're all talking about this, but my parents met on trying to keep Star Trek an extra season, because as much as we talk about this is you talk about advertisers. At the end of the day, a lot of this stuff didn't catch on until later, and a lot of it caught on because, to be fair on some of this, is we as kids have our nostalgia glasses on. We're like, this is the best thing ever because, we have that. And then we come back and let's look at Herculoids and Thundar.
Dude, those are great, dude. Those are fantastic.
No, don't
Johnny Quest. Oh, man.
I mean, come on. Thundar. I'm like,
Venture Brothers. Venture Brothers.
Venture Brothers. That's great.
No. I'm talking about early 1980s where only like old guys like us can get into this. Is where we're going through this. But the Herculoids, because we were so starved for sci-fi, and now the kids that went over, so if we look at that stuff, look at what the Gargoyle season 1 and 2 did. That was at a whole other level above the cartoons that we got as kids.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was.
I watched all that.
Oh, I still watch in my 20s. I don't feel any guilt for it. Hell, I was watching stuff.
I only saw a little bit of it, and it was a worthy endeavor. I wouldn't be opposed to watching it all, to get the whole story in and then, come back to you. But I really only watched a tiny little bit. It was at a point in my life where I wasn't watching TV. Oh, wait, that's most of my life. I was out doing other stuff when it was on.
I'm going to say this much: is Gargoyles, if you're going to be watching stuff, those were excellent for that. But
Batman Beyond was good. You're talking about alternate dimensions. It's not so much an alternate, but it is. It's a new person taking the realm.
But here's the problem that I have with modern day for a little bit for this. But if you look at it, it was Bruce as an old man when he can no longer be Batman. It made sense to have. It's the same thing with 2099 and stuff like that. I didn't mind. Wait a minute. I thought that was early 90s for Space Ghost.
Yeah, Space Coast to Coast. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah. But that's when they started doing the edge.
What's
The edge
GOAT?
stuff. It's they start.
Greatest of all time.
Well,
Means greatest of all time.
But they start moving upwards, and you go, okay. It's not that I don't mind your reimaginings. Again, I don't mind reimaginings. It's when you start combining the old and the new together, and they just fail. Because if I love the old version, let me watch the old version. If I like the newer version, let me watch the newer version. But don't go back and try crapping on the old version. I mean, let's talk about Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze in the Batman animated series was so much cooler than the original in the comic, in my opinion.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, what's her name? Harlequin. She wasn't even in the comics. That was a creation by Bruce Timm during the Batman, animated show. That she was never in the comics. That was a cartoon created character, and that excelled, and everybody loves Harlequin now.
Well,
they were kind of pandering to a niche that hadn't been filled yet. A psycho
girlfriend,
female villain kind of character. To go with the Joker. The Joker has been around for almost a freaking century. You know what I mean? And no one had come up with someone like that. Actually, I did, but it was way different. But I saw that niche. That need for like a female Lobo almost, you know what I mean?
Speaking of Lobo, total ripoff of Lobo is Deadpool. Deadpool is a complete ripoff of Lobo.
I thought Lobo was a ripoff of Gene Simmons.
Well, he looks like Gene Simmons. He looks like the demon.
If Gene Simmons if that character was a character, he'd be Lobo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Lobo's fantastic, but Deadpool just. I think Liefeld didn't Liefeld create Lobo or Deadpool? He just stole that shit from Lobo.
Maybe I could see part of it, but I always thought he was more of just like an evil version of Spider-Man. You know what I mean? With the personality, not the powers of the anything. Kind of the mask. But just the banter. It was like they were writing for Spider-Man and just turned it up a notch.
It was Lobo, because Lobo always broke the fourth wall in the comics. He would look at the audience and all that shit. So
yeah, but so did Mr. Mixelplex. So that's not always the good thing.
No, but you were talking about the Joker, right? I don't think I think the best Joker is Alan Moore's creation of the Killing Joke. The Joker can't have a girlfriend, people. He's fucking nuts. He just
exactly, with the loss of his wife, from the toaster. That comic is just.
No, Joker's just a nut. You don't know who he is, what he is. He's just fucking crazy. Well, you can't have that kind of structure.
Well, but again, when you look at Injustice Among Us, because we're talking about trying to go back to alternate dimensions where Lois Lane dies and then Superman goes completely bonkers. Joker was always trans because no one knew what the hell he was.
Daughter, man. And James
L. He was the pimp. You know
what, James L. For
it was fun.
Adam West was phenomenal, for so many reasons. But I hate to admit it, I really liked Michael Keaton as Bruce Wayne. He was like my favorite Bruce Wayne of all time. And if they had given him a little bit of leeway, we would have probably got better Batman movies with him, because he hated that freaking suit. And you can't blame him. I've actually had to wear I used to work at a Party City, and during Halloween, I'd have to wear some of the costumes to help sell the costumes. And I wore this one pair of gloves. That's all I could stand. There were these latex thick rubber clawed gloves. And every hour I would have to go empty them of about a cup full of sweat just from wearing the gloves. And I'd have to wash them out, and it was nasty. So I totally get it. If you're going to do Batman, you really got to put some money into that suit to
I
make
think-
it tolerable.
I think my favorite Batman was Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns.
Well, but
Yeah.
again, that's where we're talking alternate dimensions.
Now,
But don't bring the Adam West with the Michael Keaton, which apparently what they're doing
yeah,
with the Christopher
Killing
Nolan
Joke.
and
Yeah.
now with the
You can't bring those characters together because it's just corny as hell. I get it with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's a lighthearted romp, anyways. But you throw Batman and Batman and Batman, there's going to be a pile of blood and Batman parts when you're done.
it just diminishes the character.
Yeah.
Because like I'm a huge Captain America fan, and that was my biggest superhero. And the new Marvel movies, they got his heart, they got his story right up until the part where I could not get past the point where he's in World War II and he's not fighting Nazis. He's fighting Hydra. That's where they pushed out. The story was sacrificed for PC or some corporate ass. And it ruined it. It ruined it for me. And it's just like, because that's why he was created. To fight the fucking evils of the world, the Nazis.
And during that time, during World War II, that character was like something that everybody could get behind. It was one of the first comic books that this whole nation could get behind. You could not say a bad thing about it when everybody was bagging on comic books at that time. Comic books were for kids. They would rot your brain and all that. And then here they made Captain America freaking hero to the whole dang country. And then they just and what I heard recently, they killed Steve Rogers with a bullet to the back of the head. What a bunch of traitorous scumbags.
Yeah.
Well,
patriotism doesn't sell now.
No, it sells. They just don't want, but it does not get ESG money. Two very different things. And the problem that we have is
when
been
the
corporatized.
Monsters are trying to destroy everything and turn it into all their property. I don't give a damn what they think.
But have you guys ever thought maybe it's our time to step away? I mean, listen, I quit comics. When Civil War came out, I was done. Because they wrote Captain America as just like some dude. He would have never started a civil war. Cap would have gotten to the president. There's no fucking way he would not have done it that way. He would not have done it that way.
No. That's why
I was like, who the fuck is this? Who is this Captain America? That's not what he would have done.
I'm going to bring up a little bit different because it's he would have believed in Constitution, which apparently our government doesn't right now. But there's two different things. But here's the problem that I have with some of these things, which is, we're talking about comics and everything else, and I don't like it. Also, speaking of Warlord, where you start bringing people in where it doesn't fit in with the setting. You know what? We're gonna bring in Darkseid into Warlord. Warlord doesn't need Darkseid. It actually is better with leaving out the superhero.
He doesn't need the DC continuity. Warlord is his own thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
well,
absolutely.
Like Conan. Could you imagine Conan with John Carter that meet together and decide to fight against?
They've added like Red Sonja meets fucking John Carter and Bruce Campbell's Army of the Dead. It's
hold on. And they all decide to fight against Hydra. You're like, wait a minute.
It's just like whatever. It's like this is popular, this is popular, this is popular. Let's just put it all together. So it has to be popular if we just throw it all together.
It doesn't work that. It's not like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup.
And Reese's Peanut Butter Cup only has two things. You could probably mix one into one if you do it cool, but you can't throw everything at it because you can't focus on anything. It has no direction. It just becomes this amorphous mass.
It turns into gray slop.
Yes.
When they do that, that's what they want. And I'm not doing it. I've actually been buying a few old comic books because I won't buy new stuff. I won't. I can smell it on the first page if it's woke, and I'm not doing that. The old pulpy stuff terrifies them, and that's what I'm going to keep doing. I'm going to keep
dude, yeah.
promoting things like the Shadow, the Phantom, Doc Savage, all that pulpy goodness that it just as soon as you get it in the mail, you can feel the testosterone and you can smell the freaking just the heads exploding.
I'm going to be a little bit different than that, which is no, you don't support the corporatized stuff, but you support people like the Rippaverse, the Cyber Frogs, the people who are.
Have you read Cyber Frog? It's fucking stupid.
No.
Cyber Frog. I mean,
I know, but my whole point on this is you support the newer people coming out with their independent
their
stuff.
own idea. Yeah.
Yeah, because
if it's good, but if I got to pay $5, $10 for a single comic book,
that's insane, dude.
Get that.
Well,
you know what? I'll go out and buy a Silver Age,
yeah, with that
classic, with that kind of money.
Well, this is why anime does so well, because anime doesn't give a damn about what ESG thinks. I mean,
apparently,
go read Akira. Go read the I had those comics. I was like, holy crap.
And I hate to say this because I'm 50 now. I'm aging out. I think I'm aging out of it. I mean, it's just we have our decades of what it was for us. Now it's their turn. I don't even think it's woke. It's just the world that is today. That's how the fucking world thinks now, or some shit. I don't know.
I'm going to disagree with you on some of it. Here's the problem that I have with it is I go back and read the stuff when we talk about our day. Conan is not our day.
It's
Conan
true.
Conan isn't my father. It's maybe my grandfather, or when you start going way back and you go through it and you're like, well, wait a minute. Well, just like you're talking about the Silver Age. No offense, the 60s aren't what I came up with. My friends were all getting comics in the 80s.
It's true.
So I think part of it just comes down to is, from my perspective, stop just writing crap. You can do new stuff. I mean, like I was reading, a perfect example is the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Oh,
you can
go. I read those in Latin.
Oh wow, I'm impressed. Yep. Latin? Why the hell aren't you reading in Greek?
Shit.
Anyway,
ask me even to speak any Latin or Spanish.
But my whole point on that is that you go back and you look at on how they say the same thing with Shakespeare. Like, you don't have to like Shakespeare, but you should be familiar enough on him to know how to write a damn story. And if you're just going to do it, and the problem that we have nowadays, and before we go back to our multiple dimensions, sorry about this, is
no worries, buddy.
It's the writers are doing, instead of trying to write a good story, and if you listen to the writers, whether you like it or not, they say their characters take their own lives. They decide to become the character. Nowadays, what you're noticing is that what the people are doing is doing wish projection onto the characters, and whether it makes sense or not, it's I just listening to some of the crap coming out. I went, this is bad writing. You have lived through nothing. You don't know what the idea of sacrifice is. Whether we like it or not, is if you look back at the old comics, they were instilling these ancient values, and they were our demigods and things like that. When you start going for the comics of truth, justice, the things that are hard, that matter, and nowadays it's like, well, I should just get this. Like, it's a sense of entitlement without any earned work. Perfect example was what was that one? What was that terrible thing? Star Wars. If you look at the original Star Wars, you have Luke, who comes in as this new Jedi. It took him, he didn't even become a full Jedi until movie 3, and yet here we have with Rey or whatever whatever she's in there. Oh, I'm better than everyone. At the very beginning, you didn't go through the hero's journey. You have to go through the hero's journey to make a good story.
I think you hit it on the head, man. Yeah. I think in certain genre, I think you hit it exactly on the head. You said they haven't lived through anything. They haven't come through the sacrifice and the horror that these people did, like in the 20s, in the 30s, or in political strife in certain areas. They lived a safe, calm, secure life, and for them to try to create their own thing in those environments is hard. So they try to take these other things
really
and they
simple, guys.
convert it.
Good times make weak men, and we were given some great times, and it created exactly what we're dealing with. And it's up to us old farts to try and find our own little Jedi apprentice and teach that one kid to go out there and be the badass.
All I do, guys,
Shit starter.
is I have a YouTube channel and I have shit on my table and I got Nazi she-wolves with big titties and shit blowing up and people on fire. If that's what you like, I'm right here.
Well, you know what though? It's just like when they say, "Oh, no one wants to watch it," and you'll sit back and like people will enjoy watching stuff that is there's counterculture silliness in there.
Good for you, man.
That's right, Finkelstein. You should be shopping at S-Mart.
Yep.
Well, I mean, come on, look at the Bruce Campbell and everyone how everyone makes fun of it, and they're trolling back on the stuff from years ago. And instead of saying, you know what, let's build on the success, instead they're going, let's rewrite it all for a modern audience. And I went, well, why don't you make new characters that people would like? You know, what gets me about it is we have to destroy the old characters so people like the new characters. I'm like, no. If you do it right, you have the old characters that pass it on to the new characters, and the new characters take up the mantle and go forward. That's what
it's their own thing. They take the mantle, but it's them who move on, not
like the Phantom. Perfect example. It passed down, from one person to another over the generations. That's what was so cool about that character. It was literally
the Phantom. Okay, I was thinking the Shadow. Okay.
No. The Phantom. It started with one guy, handed it down to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. That was like the ultimate freaking story when it came to continuation. You could take any era and just go, okay, this is this particular Phantom of this era, but everybody thinks it's the same, like Immortal or some shit, who just never dies and builds up this legend literally over centuries of the same character.
I just, I think maybe the palette of the time, they don't want like swashbucklers. They don't want, because they can't, it's not what, like their idea of hero, I guess the woke hero is someone who's just who they are. They're brave because they are just acting the way they are. That's the level of heroics that they want. It, like us, like, all right, I can only speak for myself. I only speak for Brian. I don't fucking label anybody. I'm Brian. That's it. I want like people fighting the good fight, protect the weak, the innocent. I want strong men and women to rise up against, oppression. I like that kind of shit because I resonate with that.
Well, what's funny is when you talk about that, you can find some of those. If you look even at Conan, you can go back to Conan and find Valeria. You can go to John Carter and you can find the Thuvian, and you can find these strong characters. And the problem that I have with them is, even in the 80s and early 90s, we still had Sigourney Weaver and Alien and Aliens. You know what made her good is she was surrounded by strong, competent people, and she was strong and competent herself.
Stronger. Yeah.
Well, you don't have to be stronger. You just have to be strong and competent. The people, for some reason, think that, well, to raise this person up, we have to make everyone else weaker. I said, no. All that shows is that it turns people off.
It makes them like the chosen one because they're the one that's already OP and everyone else is below them. No, you want everybody on an equal playing field, and they succeed because of their actions and their foresight.
Yeah, if you think of like any good ensemble show, it's got a lot of good characters. That's what it's not the so and so show with a whole bunch of other people in the background. Any good ensemble show, they had their bastards in the show, or they're people you couldn't quite trust, but everybody was competent. And now it's got to be all about the one star.
I'm the weirdo in this ensemble. I call dibs on the weirdo on this ensemble. Okay.
Well, no. Well, I mean, look at Babylon 5 with Bester. anyone that's watched Babylon 5 knows that Bester is he was fun to watch because he was such a bastard, but he was an incredibly competent bastard. Whereas, I used to get mad as a kid when I'd watch the villains and the villains were complete idiots. I'm like, this is your main force? Anyway, so we did get back to trying to do Dungeon Mister came in. But we need to go back to multiple dimensions. And I think, like, what dimensions do you guys like to actually play in?
Well, I'm playing mostly Traveler right now, or some other games, but that's the one that I really want to explore the alternate dimensions and realities with, and because you're dealing with characters that aren't like super powerful. They're like we were saying, they're very competent in whatever it is their field, and they've got to survive without the superpowers and the magic items and all this. You're sure there's a lot of high tech stuff, but if you don't know how to use it, it might as well just be a barrel in the corner just sitting there. You know what I mean? You don't know how to use it, it's not going to help you. You've got to have the skills to be able to operate all this. Almost any particular piece of equipment, unless it's so high tech that it works for you. And then you have to really think when you're role playing.
I'm going to bring this up for, when we talk multiple dimensions, but this also comes back down to class. If everyone has a niche in the game, they do fine.
Yep.
You're fine with that. The problem is when everyone overlaps their own niche, is either it invalidates someone, or you find out that there's a lot of glaring missing issues. I mean, as much as we joke about it on our GURPS game, we didn't have a pilot, which means you have to bring in an NPC to be the pilot. For something in there. I think that's part of it when we get there. But yeah, I think that, when we're starting to do this, and if you're going to be doing multiple dimensions, you start playing a higher level game. You really do, because you need to in certain ways. If you're now sliders traveling between one dimension to another. Go ahead.
That's why one of the reasons, like I stay in the Weird World War II, because I'm Weird World War II, whatever. And I try, like when I fantasy play, I don't do the dimensional thing because it gets complicated, it gets convoluted, and it just gets formulaic. It's like the same tropes. There's an evil me in this dimension, or I'm the king and I need to go to him to get this. It's just been done. You might start in shit situation. You got nothing in your hand. Rise up. Stop trying to find a device that gives you a one up.
Yeah.
Do the grind. Do what you got to do. Build up. See, that's another thing. We want that instant payout. There's none of the hard, boring role play that gets you there. You might have to take a job, digging ditches instead of going to a dungeon and killing a dragon, or whatever. There's sometimes you got to do that, but no one wants to do that. Again, they want to do that.
Well, yeah, it depends on what you mean by no one. If you
I say a lot of people.
With us old farts, a lot of us like me, it's like I've done so much gaming that it really takes either a special group or a special game or situation to really pique my interest. I'm not going to just keep on the Borderlands again. You know what I mean? I've done it 50 times. But with the new people that are new to the hobby, we've got to compete with video games and movies and all these other ways that they can get that same sort of scratch, that itch scratched, and we've got to compete with that. So it's really, not easy when you're talking about, youngsters. They can.
I'm going to say it's not that hard. You just bring food. Is that something that they don't get?
But
as much as you talk about these things,
but seriously, do we find ourselves becoming these executive assholes that change our favorite heroes because we want to give the people that instant gratification? We are becoming the shit we hate because we're trying to compete with all this shit. Just stop competing with it.
To me, there's no competition online versus having a good fajita meal. You know that I can bring. I mean, we joke about it, Brian. I know you and I.
Barbecue.
Well, we talk about barbecue, but when you came over, you're like, no, I don't need to have that ribeye steak you're cooking up. But I mean, let's be
that's right. Yeah.
You know,
I have a woman, dude. She demanded me home, so I had to go home, dude.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if someone comes over, you'll be fed pretty well. You know, just like my friend who's a little bit different, but we like talking some of this for the games. But whenever I go to his house, we don't really talk D&D and stuff. But he always feeds me. Guess what? I'm going over to his house because I'm getting fed. Well, I say it. I don't really like his food, but I'm still going over there because there's a connection when you have food and you're around the table and you have this shared common experience. We talk about online here, which is great, but that's because most of us don't actually have time that we can work together to meet. Like you're with your wife right now. My son's in the other room practicing guitar, and then Shadow's at home, hoping to avoid putting up blinds with his son. But I'm going to mention a few books because we're going to mention things about in there. We got The Strange. I'm going to mention Monty Cook here for the multiple dimensions. You get to go in there. As much as we talk about multiple dimensions, but sometimes we're talking in the same world. Like this is from Numenera Into the Deep. We go underwater.
Yeah, it's just somewhere different. It's just somewhere, a different space. It doesn't have to be a dimension.
Yes.
It's just a different space.
And you've got that. You've got the other worlds, which I kind of enjoy, but I like reading Predation and the whole idea. Whether you like her or not, she writes some pretty good stories for this. I like the whole world. Come on, it's dinosaurs with lasers 66 million years ago, and you're caught back.
Cadillacs and dinosaurs. Remember that?
Which one?
Cadillacs and dinosaurs.
I heard about it. I never played it.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to find it because I don't know what happened to my copies.
There's another one I have where you're basically, when we talk about other dimensions, and really what we're saying is you're going to a different environment in most cases. That's why I said the City of Brass for D&D. You're going to the planes of fire. And I think that was what was in the Manual of Planes. I thought was a fantastic book in the first edition. But the idea wasn't that you're going to an identical world to your own where you're finding alternate views of yourself. You're going to a different material plane, and that's completely different. Your magic works differently. It's a way of how do I want to put this? Of where characters suddenly are thrown into an environment that they're unfamiliar with, and they have to rethink. Just like if you go for Traveler, if you go to some of the old D&D worlds, guess what? No technology works above the Middle Ages. Well, all your firearms stop. Guess what? Now your players that have, I got my laser, whatever, doesn't do any good. Now you have to figure out on how to play a different aspect. And I think that those are.
I think the big thing is the visual aspect. The more weird you can make it look, the more you can go completely off the rails of like anything similar to Earth, and that's what I'm looking for. Is
oh, go ahead.
Is just that when your character looks, I want to see crap that I'm never going to see on Earth, no matter how far back or forward. Well, I guess how far back in time you go. It's so vastly different. That's what I'm searching for.
Why we have this platform, right? We have this YouTube platform. Are people just, think about this. Why aren't we like creating like previews on our channels saying, I kind of done this in my intro video. If you like Weird World War II and I show all these images or whatever, why aren't we like the role players not doing that? Say, if you're into this kind of world and you show it, they hear it, they see it on your channel, and they're like, damn, this is cool. I want to get involved with this. Boom. There you go. There's the gateway. But what we see is the same shit. Like you got all the shills doing the same box openings, the same reviews. They're showing the same bullshit, and it's just like an advertisement. Instead of advertising you and your world of role playing, you're just talking about someone else's shit.
Well,
And I think I'm just thinking out loud here. It's like, I think people should start that. They should like, okay, this is the game I want to play. You know, like you're saying, dinosaurs with lasers. This is how it's evolved. This is where it's going. If you're interested, let's do something, you know, or whatever.
I mean, I'm not against it as much as we talk about it. Is could you imagine playing, you know, and I'll use D&D. You're doing first edition D&D, and then all of a sudden you enter the world of Silverplate, for anyone that's familiar with that, where Silverplate is basically food has become the monsters and characters. So you see like a barbarian donut. I mean, you know, I mean, you're laughing at it, but I think there's the other part too, which is what kind of things are we looking at? It's one thing whenever you're talking, using D&D because that's very familiar for everyone. It's one thing you can go over and like, oh, I'll go to Queen of the Demon Web pitch. We'll go down below. We'll go do this. We'll have some of this. Or you go like, I'll go from D&D to Gamma World. People know kind of what's going there and kind of what to expect. You can interweave it. I think part of the problem that we have is it compelling? Number one. I mean, you know, we talk about everything else, but when it's bland and there's like 100 knockoffs, no one really cares that much. But is it compelling? I hate saying this, but I know some people are like, I don't need art. Well, guess what? You know what? I do, because I want to read the damn books to enjoy them. To me, it's as much as I need this. It's like going back and I said, look, I want the whole experience, whether I like it or not. I like that whole experience. The other part of it is it accessible? Is, you know, whether we're talking systems or anything else. If I make something for first edition, that makes it very, very narrow for what I'm going to be doing. There's some cool things out there. I think that how do I want to put this? Whether people like it or not, we're living in a golden age of role playing. Everyone complains about everything, but my God, we have more role playing games now, and I think that a lot of them have better systems than a lot of stuff we grew up with kids, with more interesting aspects that we were like, oh, okay, well, I'd have to modify and work these out. And some of the old editions, you know, when we're talking about Traveler Mongoose, okay, guess what? You have nearly 45 years of history going with some of this. But I'll be honest, when I look at it, I go, ugh, I don't like the Imperium. The Imperium sucks to me for Traveler.
Is anybody playing it though? We have fucking, like you said, there's hundreds of like cool games. Like, you know, like I'm more of a miniature guy than a role player, right? There's tons of minis games, right? And it's like, oh, check out this new game, and it's cool. And all the you know the influencers will do a box opening and they'll talk about it. You'll never fucking see them play it. So it's like you have all this stuff, but no one is playing it. No one's playing it.
I'm going to bring it a little bit different, is because I think
we're working on it, Brian.
I think this is
you got to realize, like with our channel.
I'm not talking about you guys. I'm just saying it's like, you know, there'll be like a new system that it has great, great this,
there's
great
a whole lot of that crap that I won't even touch. I'm trying to, you know, show the stuff that, you know, if you've watched, you know, especially in the last year, I'm showing stuff that nobody's ever talked about. You know, games that are just, you know, gems that I mean, good luck finding, but they're out there, and you know, give them a chance. But as to your other point, a while back we made an announcement that we're going to be writing a series of 10 world books, not for a particular game, just you grab it, this is a place, and here's some ideas, and throw it in wherever you want, so that, you know, you need to, like, you know, you're going to a new planet or another dimension. Where do you land? Well, hold on. Sorry, guys.
They're coming for you, dude.
Yeah, they wish. So that you can throw it in wherever you want. But I want to describe these, you know, gonzo crazy, you know, like Empire Strikes Back was like a catalyst for me. When I saw that movie as a kid, you went, you know, from Ice World to Bespin to Dagobah, all these places that you'd never find on Earth, just crazy ass places, environments that, you know, had their own little story on their own, and then you throw the rebellion and all that crap in. Well, what about, you know, another ice world that's got, you know, something completely different going on, and you know, throw it in whenever you need it, that kind of idea, so that players and game masters can get these experiences that are not the same old crap. It's the same old medieval European game, or a reimagined, China and Japan, but with different stuff, but it's still all the same crap with just a little bit of tweak here and there. That crap bores the hell out of me. I've been so over that, just a little bit different than Earth, but it's pretty much Earth, but we're going to call it something else, and we're going to throw in, orcs and crap, and
I'm going to be different than you.
Bores the hell out of me.
I'm going to say, well, yeah, but we're saying, for me, we're going to have to remember a couple of things. One is, a lot of times when we got into this stuff, we were 12 to 20, when we had all the time in the world, where we blow off school to do this. And now we're looking at, I hate saying this, Brian and I live 5 miles away, and we've only met up twice in what? 2 months? And no, I'm not joking. It's, it was like, oh yeah, I like doing it. He's like, hey man, we'll do this. I said, okay.
You guys are going to be in a hell of a time when I get to Texas. I'm telling you, man. I'm going to be on your front door every weekend, man.
Well, that's cool.
That's game, dude. That's game.
Well, you can do that, but you know what it may come down to is, all right, you got to help me go plant some trees here.
Yeah. Reality sets in, but it's just.
I'm going to bring up one other thing here, which is alternate World War II is easy.
It is easy.
Fantasy is kind of easy. We know World War II. We can go watch all the documentaries and go, you know what? It'd be awfully cool. Do you remember watching, what is it called? The Keep or something? Where the Nazis are in there and it keeps them inside. And they're like, why are the walls bigger on the inside that, the blocks on the inside rather than the outside? You find it, or the, what was it? The American Badass, where they have Teddy Roosevelt versus, FDR versus the werewolves. Come on. But everyone's familiar with it. You do a little bit alternate history, like Eldritch Earth has one, and we can get behind it. Same thing with fantasy. When you look at fantasy is Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, look, I can go pull out the books from, what is it? I can go pull up some books from the library and go look up medieval fantasy. And then I can add we have mythology and stuff. So I don't disagree with Shadow. You get bored with it. But we have to remember that usually people want something familiar enough that they can feel that they're part of that world. And if you make it too crazy, which is why I mentioned Numenera as being a little too crazy, it's like, this would be so cool, but I can't even know how to run it. So I put that off the side, and I'll go with something that is easier for me. We do have a DMing crisis, because you are only going to play the games where there's a DM. And I think there's part of that. And once you
look at Vengeance Titanis' Choke. That is just a mix of all the weird crap, little bits and pieces to make up this one big crazy ass, world setting that's so vastly different than 99% of all the stuff that's going on out there. That's the kind of stuff I'm going after and interested in. That's, how many times have you, like, Keep on the Borderlands? How many times have you, been offered to get into that game? It's the same crap, there's very little, originality. You know what I mean? It's a great starter situation, but there's stuff out there that's just,
I think part of this is, we're talking about this, but let's look like Legion of Myth. I want to start off as this. I don't want the Gonzo game. And you go, okay, but how do I hate saying this, is my normie friend, 5e friend, he'd love to play this as far as other things, but guess what? He also wants to play with his wife. He wants to play with his, his wife is the deciding factor in what he plays. I'm not trying to be mean about it, but that is the truth.
No, but I hear you.
That's, just like you said with Mel, if she doesn't like something, but you're like, hey, she'll play these other games with me. You're going to keep playing the games that people will play with, whether we like that or not.
It's true. You're right. And that's the thing. And you guys say this a lot. You find your tribe, right? Yeah. Yep. And that's the journey as a gamer, man. We've all been this in a long time. And look at us. We have 1, 2 people that play with us, to people in our general vicinity that are kind of in tune in the same. That's the journey, man. As a gamer, it's finding someone to play with, because there's games out the ass, man. There's tons of games, and if you find somebody that's like you, you'll find that game that you'll be able to play. But it's just finding that person, man.
So a little thing about, we're talking with Brian here. Where the hell were you, like a few Saturdays ago when we had that,
I just started a new job, dude. It's kicking my ass.
Okay.
Man.
Well, no. I mean, but see, real life is coming in and we're looking at things, whereas the reality of it is we, when we were young, we have all the time in the world. You know what? I remember we can play 24 hours, and guess what? We started it whenever it's in the morning on Friday or whenever we get off, and we'll go Saturday and then Sunday, and then we'll head home. We might stay up late, or in some cases, I remember playing games where someone would fall asleep like in the middle of the game. We kind of ignore them when they wake up, and it would be cycling on who was actually playing, whether it's video games or anything else. And now in my life, I'm kind of going, how much do I really want to take to build the time off, which is where we have so much of this. And, like I play with Yale Geek. Well, that works out really well with me because he starts his games at 8 a.m. our time. My time, 6 o'clock Shadow's time. But I can do that. And I don't feel like I lose my entire day.
Well, I think that's another reason why gaming conventions are so popular, is because people they commit to that time, and that, they alter their whole lives around that point to get the gaming in, instead of, trying to do it so often. They just concentrate it all on that one location.
Well, I've only been to like a couple of conventions. Big thing is, doesn't matter, guys. You can go take a shower. It's okay. And then come back. This is the. I'm like,
man, I put all that shit aside. You're gonna have stinky. Yeah. You're gonna have dripping nose, sir. I mean, it happens, and it's part of it.
well, and we talk about these things. Is let's say, for example, Dying Earth series. The only people that are going to play that are the people that have read it. Most people aren't even familiar with it until they look at the Appendix N. And I'll be honest, I'm almost 50. In a month and a half, I'll be 50. But we've got this and the Dying Earth, and I never read it until this year. Okay, so and when did I start playing?
That's so weird.
8 years. I was 8 years old. Same thing with Conan. As part of it was because I was steeped in the literature, and I loved werewolves and demons and all that other stuff. And so I was going to the school library as an 8-year-old, which is funny what they allow in the school libraries. We all complain about nowadays.
Don't even get us started, man.
No. But I mean, I was flipping through it, and they had like the old Dracula. They had the various like Grimm's Tales unedited. This is in elementary school libraries, and I'm just like pouring through this stuff because that's the stuff that I was attracted to as a younger kid. Like Fancy and Magic. What the hell is Fancy and Magic? And I understand where he came from with this. I'm still pissed off that Gygax screwed it up, because if you're going to do Fancy and Magic, you also have to say, look, you can be a fighter as well. You just don't come up there as a crappy magic user that can't hit anything. You mix those two up. But those are the things I think that come into it. It's just like for Conan. All right, fine. I saw enough of the Hawk the Giant Slayer, if we all remember that crap, and the Thunder the Barbarian. I'm like, okay, I have enough inspiration from that. And then as you get older, like, let me go back and read some of these things. And whenever I hear someone talk about High Gygaxian, and then you look at the Appendix N, shut the hell up. It just means that you weren't reading the same books he was. I mean, the old Avalon Hill books, but that's the same way I feel about games and settings. What we're really talking about when we say multiple dimensions is settings. Do I want to play multiple settings with the same set of characters? And in most cases, yes, but it takes a while to get there. We talk about Keep on the Borderlands. I love Keep on the Borderlands only because it also harkens back to the Conan. It's a great, because you're right in that middle transition period. Unless I want to play a high political game, I don't want to be in the city. I don't, where are my orcs? The other part is, it's easy to get someone to say, hey man, it's like playing in the Middle Ages, but we have orcs. Oh, okay, that's cool. Oh, look, we have dragons. We have all the things that you can imagine, which is why The Witcher is very familiar to us. We understand what the kind of the world is.
Because we read Elric.
What's that?
Because we read Elric.
No, I never read Elric until this year. And to be honest, The Witcher and Elric are not the same. They're not. There's
they're not the same, but there's so many. There's over 100 different parallels, and in a court of law, that would be enough.
No, it wouldn't, because it's enough of its own work. That's like saying that there's enough parallels between Ajax and Elric. They're very different in feel in a lot of ways for what they have. It's just because you go over like, oh look, there's now Albino. Yeah, there are albinos and all sorts of stories as well. You can't go through that because there's a Slavic feel to it, which is not the Elric stuff. To me, it's one of these things when the people say, oh, it's like this. Well, okay, but that's like saying World of what was it? Whether people realize it or not, is Warcraft. Warcraft 1 was supposed to be a Games Workshop knockoff, and they didn't let Blizzard do it, and then Blizzard said, okay, we're gonna go in our own direction. Now we have World of Warcraft, and no one's saying World of Warcraft meets Warhammer, even though that was kind of where the intention was when it was first started. But yeah, I think that's part of what we're trying to look at is, sorry, if I read one, it doesn't exactly translate over. Yes, they're similar themes, but they're what, 21 different plots in the book or something like that. But the characters are what make the difference. Read the characters, and how do you feel about it when you read the characters? And that's the way I feel about it. Yeah. So, what settings do you want to play and at what level? And I know, Shadow, you've played at really high level settings, really high level, where you weren't cheating for stuff.
Ludicrously high.
At that point,
and it was only there that we could really, it wasn't only there, but it was that helped us be able to get away from so many of the standard tropes of most role playing, where we could literally break free of the bonds of that one planet and start going into these crazy locations with societies and cultures that were completely alien to all of the other stuff that most RPGs, even in things like Gamma World, you end up with a feudalistic society, because that's all the people at the time could think of and work out for a situation, the Earth and it went kablooey and everything goes back to the Dark Ages, and somehow you get these certain things. Obviously, there are going to be countless planets and societies where you're going to have a king or something akin to it, but we just wanted to really stretch our imagination and do things that were different. I mean, mind you, this came about because we've been playing all the other games for decades. We played D&D for 15 years, almost every single day. Then we played Gamma World and Traveler, and then we got Rifts, and that was like really helped us realize that we could just go absolutely freaking crazy. Mind you, I was using Arduino all throughout all of it, but I hadn't received some of the world books of Arduino. It was just a little bit here and there to help us whet our appetite for vastly different things than pretty much everything else that was out there. And that's what I'm hoping to help foster and inspire in people is really let your imagination go and make these things that nobody's ever seen before. Don't try to copy so much from other stuff. Do your mescaline or whatever, and just expand that mind and think of things nobody else has thought of. Crazy crap. Like you were talking about the dinner plate. Somewhere out there, if infinite is infinite, you will find that. That's literally a real place somewhere out in the cosmos, if it's infinite, well, embrace the idea of the infinite and that somewhere out there, everything exists. So, don't be afraid to use your imagination and be the weirdest guy you've ever met.
Well, I think the problem that we have again is, yeah, it's great for you to be that one guy that does that, but if no one wants to be in your game, you kind of stuck and play the same one. I mean,
play with yourself.
Well, that's great. If I hate saying it as I bought 5 parsecs from home. I don't have to play with anybody else, but I can if I want to. Just like when Brian and I were playing, what was it, Shadows over Normandy. Okay, that was kind of interesting. The problem that I have, and I think this is with a lot of us, which is nice about role-playing games for the most part, is I bring a couple of books, I bring some dice, we have some food, we're done. The problem I have with some of the war games is if it's more than 2 hours or something, it's a perfect example. Is if anyone remember Axis and Allies, where we'd have to save it for like a day or two later, and if you don't have a dedicated room or something to that, it has to get disassembled, and you go, okay, well, a perfect example is what I'm not sure where you have it is.
Sorry,
well,
you know what? Right there.
That would be kind of cool, along with the radishes.
Or turnip. The game turnip.
The turnip, the tournament. Shadow, like we joke about some of this. Where's your? I think if you move the camera up just a little bit, we're going to see Twilight Imperium. And how often have you played that game?
Not even once.
And I'm not trying to knock it. It's not that I don't want to play that game.
But
good God, it takes 6 to 8 hours, which means we have to dedicate our time. You have to get everyone there, and if you can't finish it tonight, then you have to leave. This is why, those gaming tables that they have, where they have that space in between, where you can put the toppers on top, and you can use your tables.
Those are $2,000 a pop. I almost bought one, but my son was only 4 or 5 years. It was 3 years old when we moved here, and it was the perfect time to get one. But I was thinking, okay, he's gonna have a bowl of cornflakes, and he's gonna spill it, and that milk is gonna just go into those cracks. And then I was looking at the other end of the table with my mother-in-law, who can't eat anything without spilling it, because she's like 80. She's only 70 something back then, and it was the same thing. It's like, I'm gonna buy a $2,000 table, and unless I freaking cover it with a tarp, you know what I mean? Every meal, someone is going to spill something. And it's going to get into that felt, and I'm not even going to be able to pull the panels out because Grandma's not going to tell me she spilled something because she doesn't speak English. And then I try to pull that panel out to open up my game table, and there would just be freaking gazpacho soup gluing everything together.
Gazpacho.
Yes, but I mean, but those tables make a lot of sense for the fact that you can. You can keep the whole board there, and you guys can come back, tomorrow or something like that. And I think that's, we're talking about this stuff. This is why people have basements, which of course we don't have here in Texas for the most part. This is why, people have basements with their gaming tables. That to me would make sense for all of this stuff if you have that space. But a lot of us have limited space. I know when Brian came up, like, okay, Brian,
don't judge me.
It's like, look, I have all this stuff packed in. If I could build my house, before all the prices went out, then I'd be like, oh, okay, look, I've already planned out my house that it will have a gaming space. And as my friend said, but there's only one bedroom. I said, yes, there's only one of me. She said, well, where would your guest stay? I said, there's something called a couch.
Or a hotel down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? If it's out there and I got farmland, you can go. You can pitch a tent, outside. You can go watch the stars. But no, I think that this is.
See, Omen, what you got to do even better than that is you got to find a lady who likes all the same crap you do, like our friend Brian here, and then you don't have to worry about no couch situation. Hint, nudge, nudge. Know what I mean? And then you are set for life. You got a built-in gamer, and
it's not all roses with Mel, dude. I mean, it sometimes it takes a little cajoling to get her to. She loves board games and that video game, but the miniature war gaming is a little heavy for her. I just got to get her to the table. When I get her to the table, she has a blast. But it's sometimes
You know,
it takes some work.
we were all very happy for you because Bo and James and myself and countless others who watched the last game with you two.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was you know, that was like heaven. You know what I mean? Her attitude and willingness and all that.
She kicked my
I'm sure
ass,
you had to
too.
make it up to her later. You know, but you know that's you know that's you know people say that sort of thing about me because I'm retired and I could literally play a game every single freaking day. You know, as long as it's before Jackie gets home from school. You know what I mean? But that's like next level, man. You know, you can at a certain point, you can get to where it's her coming up with the scenarios, and you're just like, damn, woman, all right, I'm in. You know what I mean?
Well, but that's what I'm trying to say is, we talk about these multiple dimensions. I'll be honest, it's the stuff that I find most interesting is not when you get up to the higher levels. I like the lower level, grittier stuff. And, you're like, oh, okay, you get me, you get, Legion of Myth, you get yourself, you get all this. And you go, well, you just got up to 10th level. I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm getting bored. Let's go for something else. Like, no, this is where I get all the power. I understand.
My dungeon master in my AD&D game on Tuesday nights, we just got 9th and 10th level, and he's like, well, at about 12th level, I'm going to call it quits, and we're going to start a new game. And I'm like, what the? I'm playing a magic user. For those of you who don't know, at 11th, 12th level, that's when a magic user in AD&D can start making magic items. Okay, I can just sit at home making magic crap. But that's when we're going to retire the characters. I'm like, shit, if I'd have known that, man, I might not have been here this whole time because, I want to play the magic user so I can make magic items and hand them out to my friends and tell them to go give me more ingredients so I can make more magic items.
Well, and see, part of me goes from a DM standpoint. It's like, well, that's when I start finding it bored. That's what it's going in there. But yeah. Well, that's okay. We might comment to him. Anyway, but so anyway, yeah. So, but no, I mean, when we talk about the different dimensions, part of me goes, that's why you play different games also. Is like, okay, like
yeah,
I know that
I was actually going to bring that up, but you beat me to it. I've literally got hundreds of different games, mostly role-playing, but I do have a fair, selection of war games, and I'm looking into getting, more of everything because I want that.
We all know you are a collector, brother.
Oh,
and
yeah,
that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, but believe it or not, I've played 90% of everything I have. I've played at least once, and that's why I like sharing these games because like when I met RPG Grandma, she's got some of these games that I figured nobody else out there has, and boom, I met her, and we started talking about some of these really old, like 40, 50-year-old games. And I thought I was like the only one. So I know there's people out there that want to, pull out a copy of, Don't Give Up the Ship or Tractics or, stuff like that, just because what the hell? Why not? Why have I been hanging on to it for all these years other than to sell it and help put my kid through college, which, what I mean? Which I could do. Some people don't realize that, I sold a game a couple years ago for $10. It's now in the hundreds because people realize, oh, hey, this was the first blah, blah, blah kind of game. Okay. It was crap. It was just crap. I'm not that kind of a collector, but there are people out there willing to pay that kind of money. So be careful what you let go.
Well, I'm going to bring the other part which is, I feel like a collector, except I don't buy it to collect. I buy it with the not lofty goal to play, and whether I play it or not, that was the goal. I have all these 4 games with my son, and
I'm still waiting to play Pugmire.
Well, you told me without DM James and Hungar not to do it, so I'm like, okay. But I mean, when we're looking at it, is what way we play Forbidden Desert. He hasn't played what is it? Something Dawn. But anyway, Dead of Winter. We'll play Connect 4, and he'll play what's the other one that we have? King of Tokyo. I'm like, do you want to play these other games? No, Daddy. I got him to finally sit down to play Conan with me. The miniature game. I was like, okay, cool. And he had fun with it. But he's like, we'll do something else. He wants games that play like 20 or 30 minutes. And like, okay, so much for playing. No, that's the other part is, we're talking about this, and I joke about with Brian. I got someone to buy DCC. I would love to do DCC, but if you can only find 2 players when you need like 5 or 6, it's hard. Which is why, which is why the internet is so good. Hey, you know what? I don't like GURPS that much. That's fine. We'll go play it because that's about the only sci-fi game out there that isn't overly like. I do not want to play Pathfinder.
Well,
You mean Starfinder?
Yeah, Starfinder. Well, equivalent.
So I used to be like you guys. I used to have tons of different systems and tons of shit. And it was just, it got to that point where you have this self-realization that's like, I am never going to play all this. And I don't have the room to bring it with. And that's just me. I'm just, everybody has their own situation. But me, I was just like, I got to let this stuff go. So I need to narrow in, what do I love? What do I love? And what is the passion? And it was, the wargaming. I chose Pathfinder because I had to choose. I could have done 3.5 or Pathfinder, and I had a lot more with Pathfinder. I kept some of the 3.5 stuff that would work with Pathfinder, and that's my fantasy role playing. And then my wargaming, everything else goes except everything within 1920 to 1950, 28 millimeter. Everything else goes.
I'm gonna bring this up, which is every time I have something. I want to look it up and like, I don't have,
I had that once.
Well, that's that there's that aspect, but
we used to have the trove. That's what I could sell all this shit because I had the trove. I can just go back to the trove, download, whatever, but it's gone now.
I mean, there's
a couple of places popping up that are out there. If you know the right folks that
we'll spread the news.
Stuff.
I need that.
We'll talk offline. A friend of mine hooked me up with, a crap ton of shit.
I'm gonna mention one other thing though, which is
I owe somebody a freaking launch at least, man.
Well, the funny thing is, Trove got me to buy more crap than I would have if I had it. Because
I knew you were going to say that.
Because I like physical copies. Yeah. And the problem, I think that whether they realize it or not, yes, I understand they lose PDF sales, but for Conan, I would have never bought Conan if I hadn't opened it up and went, you know what, this just clicks with me. Now, have everything else click with me on 2D20? Not really. But Conan hit that sweet spot. I know that Shadow here, when he was talking about the whole
John Carter
Mutant Chronicles, I would have never bought Mutant Chronicles except if it was on sale because I looked at it, I didn't really like it that much. But I'm like, all right, I'll buy this for $40 and I'll get all like 18, hell, it was cheaper than buying
jealous, dude. So jealous.
Mutant Chronicles has a cool story. It's a cool story.
You know what? Yeah. I actually like it more than GW in a lot of ways. And I don't like the 2D20 system, but all those books have so much lore. It's like they when they bought it, they got all this stuff it was like getting ready to be made, but it didn't get made. So they got all these notes, these piles, and reams of notes, and then they said, "Okay, well, we're going to put all this in," and they did a phenomenal job with all the lore. The system too complicated for trying to make it less complicated than the original game, and sometimes that happens, but that's another dimension, another alternate reality that it's one of the few IPs that I can actually get behind and go, yeah, I'm going to play somebody else's work. Normally, I don't like running other people's stuff. I want to do it all on my own, come up with my own, literally everything. Like he was talking about, Owen was talking about the Third Imperium or any of the Imperium. I wouldn't know. I've got all the Traveler books, but I don't use that crap. I got my own stuff, my own universe, my own galaxy, multiple dimensions. I want to make all that crap up because as like a game master, that's, hey, Raven, that's what it's all about, is making your own world and then going out and hanging out in your own creation and getting other people to hang out in your own creation. It's kind of like, do you guys know the movie What Dreams May Come?
I'm familiar with it, but I haven't watched
Tom Hanks one or something, or
no,
Robin Williams. Robin Williams,
yeah. Go check that out. Everybody here in the chat, that's your homework for next week. Go out and watch that movie. That version of heaven, or that idea of what heaven would be. That's what I'm looking at. Not just in the afterlife, but in the real world is making my own creation and getting other people to occasionally drop by and go, hey, want to hang out? Let's do this. What do you got for us? What weird crap can you pull out of your head for us this time in a game that when I leave or when my players leave, they're like, man, that was like nothing I've ever played before.
I'm going to say one other thing. We talk about multiple dimensions, and there's something that's also beginning to come in. I know that Bo has a young child, but we're starting to get to the point where our lives are kind of leveled out. I know that you're retired, Shadow, but I think a lot of us and this is going to happen to a lot of people as we start going off into retirement, is we'll be like, you know what? We don't care about the younger generation. We all talk about, I don't, you know what?
Well, I kind of have to. I've got one living here.
No. Well, you aren't really. No, I mean, he can play his game. You can play your game. And it's like, well, you can go in either one. But my point is that he's going to be trying to build his life when he's in his 20s. And he's going to be missing this large section where if he comes back to it, like we are, in our 40s, we're like, look, we're kind of stable. We have all this stuff. I think that people forget about that. It's the same reason that when you look at all these people that have been, what do they call it?
The DM gene runs strong in this family. Just the other day, he asked me to teach him to start being able to dungeon master, which means
this is all you have to do for dungeon mastering. Ignore the rolls. The rolls don't matter. Everyone wants to play with dice. I'll say this much: is some of the best ones I had is I don't think we've rolled once for like hours on end. Even though because sometimes you're like, this is slowing the game down. You meet 5 orcs. What do? Well, we do this. All right, they're dead. Let's move on. You're already 10th, you're already 15th level. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter anymore. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say is I think sometimes everyone wants to say, well, I'm going to bring this challenge for goblins because, no offense, we've been fighting goblins for the last 14 levels. Screw it. Move me on to something that's like actually fun and interesting. If I have to keep fighting the same damn goblins, no more Lord of the Rings. Sorry.
I always slow down the party with rust monsters, Zorn, shit that eats their equipment, that eats their magical stuff, or anti-magic fields. Just like they're like, wait a minute, what's that? Hey, you can kill and hack and slash shit all day long, but when you're standing up against a rock and you have like an ion stone implanted in the back of your back, and a Zorn just takes a big ass bite out of it to eat it. You lose that, and you take some damage.
I'm not against that stuff. The problem that I have all too often with D&D, when we talk about dimensions, is they seem wed to their equipment, which is oddly enough, which is in the technology other than their ship, we can talk about. But the understanding is that your equipment is temporary for the most part. Your gun only has so many shots. This only can do this. You kind of understand that intuitively. So you're like, all right, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And you try carrying what you can. But boy, in D&D, it's like, and I think Shadow talks about, he and I were talking about one time, I would rather my character die than lose the +3 sword. But that's the kind of the idea of, well, and I understand some of it, but I'm like, no, that's one of the reasons I liked Star Frontiers. Again, Travelers.
How many times, like even freaking Luke, lost his freaking lightsaber. He got another one, different color. You hear him complain? No.
Wait a minute. Luke played like every other character you've ever been in there. All of a sudden, he has his lightsaber. Darth Vader cuts off his hand. He cries like a little bitch, and then he jumps off the cliff. I mean, come on. I mean, if you as the DM, I mean, if you really look at it, that's what the players do. It's like, I would rather be dead. And they're like, I'm going to jump off the.
In my opinion, the Jedi and the Sith were the weakest point in Star Wars. I was all into the politics and the war. I was a big rebel guy. I love the idea of the worlds uniting to fight against the evil empire. What's that?
The Empire was right. The Empire was right, man.
What?
Sorry.
Oh man.
Nah, I always love that. The Empire was right. I'm like, yes. There's nothing.
I had a feeling you would slide to the Empire for some reason.
Wait. There's nothing better. There's nothing better that says, yes, I'm the good guy when I just blow up planets because they don't agree with me. I mean, it's like, you know what? I hate saying this. It's just like a wife.
That was like Grand Moff Tarkin making that call. That wasn't like, should we call the president? Should we call the emperor? Fuck it. I'm a Grand Moff, boy.
What the hell does that even mean? What the hell does that even mean? It sounds like a breakfast sandwich.
Yeah. No. That's Admiral Akbar's cereal. You can't repel flavor of this magnitude. Now it's fish flavored marshmallows. No,
Raymond, this is what we do before Nathan's show.
Well, what gets me about this is, we're talking about all these things. And so I said, well, look, I love the whole thing with the Jedi, but, let's be fair. Is he slowly moved his way up? It wasn't one of these things like, I'm the ultimate badass at the very beginning. And you went through the whole hero's journey, and Han Solo was still held his own. You still needed him. If it wasn't for him, Luke would be dead.
In the prequels,
yes.
They showed how fascistic the Jedi were. Remember the guy was smoking cancer sticks or whatever the hell, and he used his mind wiggle and made him. Dude, that's forcing your will on. So that's oppression.
I don't disagree with you on
shit
that.
Right there.
Well, I mean, once you got into the prequels, I went, what's so great about these Jedi? They suck. Anyway, but
hey, any religion that tells me I can't, do certain things, that my body is telling me since I was a teenager to do, and I can't do those things, I am so out of there. That's why the Empire was right, because the Sith can go out and do those things and draw power and strength from those very things that your body is telling you to do.
Well, see, what gets me about it is there can only be there can only be two. Well, what happens if you kill them off? It never made sense to me in how the Sith could actually promulgate. It just is like, well, gee, you take out care of two of them, and they're gone. That's it. Because the apprentice has to kill off the master. You just kill off the master before you can have an apprentice, and you're good. Anyway, I said that none of this makes sense for the whole.
That's the new way. The old Republic way, thousands of years ago, there were freaking Sith all over the damn place, thousands of them, and that's why they won.
Well, it's like, what was the grand vision? Let's take over the universe and make it our. It's like, come on! If you're like some space wizard, why would you even give a shit about controlling Tatooine?
Well, see, my favorite with the whole
spice worms, dude. Spice worms. That's why.
Hey, speaking of which, the Dune. Let's be honest. We want people to talk about people stealing stuff. There you go. You got George Lucas stealing Dune left and right.
Dune is a perfect example of high fantasy sci-fi where it's just all it is greed. It's the rich who want to live forever that want the spice to live forever, and everybody else is just sucked into their bullshit.
Well, here's the funny thing: the spice also addicts you, so you can't get off of it. If you get off, you turn
into a big fish worm thing.
Well, that's if you get too much spice. But I mean, but
that's what the goal was.
How you doing, buddy?
Well, that isn't it a de-evolution. When you go back to the evolution, and you the fish.
But is it de-evolution? Is it maybe it's evolving into a higher life form instead of devolving? I don't know. That's way above my pay grade. I'd be one of those assholes digging crap out of sand.
Well, I don't know if you ever watched it. When I enjoyed Geek and Sundry before she went nuts. Anyway, was the when they had space janitors, which was kind of the joke of the rebellion, and they're like, "Hey, what happened here?" And when they show that when they cut off the hand, it's like, "Hey, look what I found, guys."
It's like a hand with a lightsaber on it.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
whoa,
exactly.
check it out.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey, you're not allowed to have one of those. Or what is the my other favorite was, what is it, Dolores of HR for the Empire?
Oh, dude,
Oh yeah,
I love that girl. She is so funny. That is one talented lady, and yeah.
See, when we're talking about different dimensions, could you imagine going off to the Empire and actually having, what were you doing in the TIE fighter again? Here you have to fill out such and such requisition form, and you're like, I just want to be a hero. Like, no. Look, there's a laser.
You're a TIE fighter pilot. You never gonna get that far.
I mean, if we treat this like really for government, it's kind of like, why is there a scratch on the side? Well, I was doing this, and they went, that's coming out of your paycheck. Here, you have to go sign this, and we're going to give you you have to sign this off.
So do you think the Empire even paid any money to their people? I have never seen in any of the Star Wars, I'm not a huge Star Wars guy, but have you ever heard of any Imperial getting money, like a paycheck? I have never heard that.
I thought that they did in the didn't they do that?
Well, I got two words that'll answer it all. Bounty hunters.
I'm going to bring up another thing.
But they're not Imperial soldiers.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they would have to. Otherwise, why would you join?
I don't think you have an option. You either farm the vapor rapers or whatever, or you become a badass star pilot and fight and shit. That's it. That's your two options.
So Brian, here's the reason they have no pockets.
This is a toughie, Raymond. This is a toughie.
But no, I don't
know. I find the right girl. I'm kind of a one woman guy. I find that right woman, and I'm a sucker for loyalty.
What we don't see is Shadow's wife is sitting right next to him on a stool with her big old rolling pin.
No. She's got the No, she's got the pestle mortar. And if you ever seen the big ones where they have the where it's more like a club, that's what she has right there.
Or like the Blues Brothers, the Nuns yardstick.
Oh, I love that. Well, we're talking about all these dimensions, and I guess if you're playing the same characters, but sometimes I want to play different characters. I want to play different games. This is why I say I'm a whore for RPGs. I can't just sleep with one. And I'm going to bring up another thing when Shadow brings this up about creating its own world. That's great if everyone is willing to keep engaged in there. But I'm going to be, as I get older, as I'm just becoming lazier and lazier, I said, you know what? Why do I have to create my own world? If I can find a cool one out there, I'll just steal everything from it and then modify it as I like.
Yeah.
And that's the way I go through it. It's just like when you talk about your.
For me, that's the
I want to play the
form
Blues Brothers. Is there a Blues Brother role playing game?
Yeah.
Dude,
Well,
it's awesome. The mission is they're on a mission from God. That's the damn adventure.
Well, you know what? You just put that in D&D. They suddenly come over.
You got
the reformed.
you got the cops. You got the Nazis. You got the rednecks. You got the crazy ex-girlfriend trying to shoot. You got all sorts of
again.
Wait a minute.
Oh my God, she was just amazing, wasn't she?
She's great.
What was the? I'm gonna really date myself. Which, if I had it in good condition, I could just imagine how much it was worth. I had the Indiana role playing game.
Oh, I remember that.
Jones role playing game.
I had that when I was a kid. Yeah.
I couldn't quite get into it, but some of these with when you're out there, it's like, oh, okay. But part of it just comes down to, while we say different dimensions, that's fine. Some of it really comes down to, I know that Shadow did this. I'll just take your characters that you did in the in one game system. I'll convert them over to this game system. We'll play them through. And
that's what I did with the last game I ran for Table Breakers. I love the characters that they made so much. Even though I was a player in that game, I'm like, okay, when it's my turn, I want you guys to run these characters, because they did they really, of all the characters that we ran in Table Breakers, those are the characters that for me stood out as being not just original, but fun to listen to and be around and interact with. So it was like a no-brainer. It's like, you guys are running these characters again. And I guess the other guys didn't really feel that the way I did, but I
think
love that idea.
I think the new, like the different dimension trope isn't also, like you guys were saying, we're getting bored. Let's do something different.
Yeah.
Instead of picking up a new game, let's say you're a 3.5 player. That's the rules, that's all the dice, all the numbers. You got all that shit down. So let's not get a new game. Let's just say we got sucked into the Westworld dimension because let's play some cowboys. I think it's an easy way to just convince people to do a new game without actually playing a new game.
I don't disagree with that. Well, I think that's where Gamma World came in, because you could use the characters were interchangeable very quickly. That's what happens with DCC and ours. That's one of the reasons when we talk about, I know that Shadow talks about settings, not systems. Though I found what was interesting was looking at, because like I said, I don't mind trying a new system. Let's try it out. If I don't like the system, we'll throw it away and we'll try another one. I'm okay with that. It's, let's experiment. Right. Let's do the mad beaker of games. And we'll just, pour it in with the, here, let me go grab this from this thing and this one. And let's see wouldn't make sense. But sometimes I found it was easier to get players to switch to a whole new system, because that they can accept what goes on in that system rather than just porting over a couple rules from a different system, even though it'd be the exact same thing. And I was just like, well, wait a minute, because they'll scream and yell in system X, but in system Y, they'll accept it. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, you can do that because that's part of the game. I know that when they were doing Conan and I guess the Mutant Chronicles, is Heathen Dog and Legion of Myth were all complaining about, I don't like it when players can control the environment. The main time all I can think is, oh cool, it's one less thing I have to do as a DM. Yeah, you go do it. I mean there's certain things that I like. It's just this whole idea of how much control do you want?
Well, you got to realize, one, Heathen Dog runs exclusively railroads, and yes. Max wants a little bit more control, or less control than Heathen Dog when it comes to that. But he does tend to do sandboxes. Me, I've got like a mix. Well,
I mean, everyone talks about a railroad, which means you can't get off the rail. In the meantime,
I created a world, when I'm a dungeon master, that I don't want the players to just trash. You know what I mean?
Welcome to role playing, dude. Guaranteed they're going to trash
part of the. Sometimes that's actually kind of what I want, but there's some places that it's obvious. This is sort of an integral location that is bigger than the players. So I'm not giving them free run, of the place with a bunch of nuclear weapons. You know what I mean? But it's you've got to have some, not control, but you got to pull the reins back on certain situations. Well, you definitely want to let them, go out and do whatever the hell they want to do, but at the same time, you can't just let them think that anywhere and everywhere they go is like Blazing Saddles, and they can just blow up the town. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm going to bring up a little bit, which is my view on this is if you're going to change your world or you're going to build one, let the players do a lot of this stuff, but make it on the far away stuff. It's like, well, I'm from such and such. Okay, you know what? You write it up. I have final say on what goes on there, and make them do that investment of the work, so I don't have to screw with all that work. Is what? You'd be amazed on players that really get sucked into it. They'll spend like 200 hours designing a city. You're like, well, you give it to me and I'll modify it. And they'll be cool with that. And now they've got the buy-in. And that's part of what I look at, which is not necessarily this antagonistic view, which is you're going to follow my railroad. Look, I'm going to have a story for you. once you get onto it, all I do ask is that you don't be dicks about it. If you say this is the kind of game you want to do, I will throw you in there. Do you want a long play? Which is very different. I know that the 5e says, "Oh, we want one story that's continuous for everything." And I know that when I was listening to what is it, Sean from Mage's Musings, his view is like, as a DM, what I enjoy is just seeing what randomly occurs, and I just have to like, because he's surprised what goes on. That's those are the two different DM styles that you get. I'm okay with doing somewhere in between, which is I have an idea of what's going to go on in the world. I'll modify what's going on in the world, and we'll sort of go through this. But to me, how do I want to put this? I don't want a railroad. I want a highway with some exits. And when you hit the exit, you can take the exit off. But I don't want you suddenly saying, you know what? We're driving off the road right here, going off. Okay, there are exits we can go off, and those are going to be, critical points. But I'm going to keep you on the road until then. And I said, okay, that's what I think that a lot of players want, is they want some structure without feeling that no matter what they do, they're still going to get to the station.
Yeah, because like when you ask them, okay, so what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
Crickets. Let's go to the you're right.
Well, the other part is I'm sure we've all played the board, the role playing, like The Witcher and stuff. Is look, you have 10 quests, and if they pick a quest, all I'm asking you guys to do is follow through the quest until we finish the quest, and then we'll go find a new one. And in an ideal world, look, at low level, you guys pretty much probably want to follow what I give you for the quest.
I think there is a Mighty Python
RPG.
Raven, you're in luck.
Yeah,
We'll have to send you a copy.
I think it's a D20.
And make her DM. We'll make her ref it.
Well, Paranoia. That's one of those that you kind of go.
That was funny. That was a fun game. The original Paranoia. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know what the modern day is, but sometimes I hate saying this, is that, and I do think there is a cultural difference. A lot of the younger kids are afraid to say anything that goes against, and you just went, no, that's what makes these things funny, is they were completely ridiculous and they were out there. And I heard this, which
embrace the ridiculous. I mean, you would think about it, the whole hobby, is kind of ridiculous, from a certain point of view. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
It's like my name is Brian Cottrell, and I play and paint with little army men.
And Brian, you and I have talked, and yet you still deal with some very high political figures or formerly political figures that do the same. So but here's the point that I want to bring up. I don't know when you're going to leave, Shadow. Which is the important part, is the great thing about games is you can leave the real world behind. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. You can be heroic. You can be the kind of character you want to be out there. You're trying to be with friends. It gives you an excuse to be together, which is, it's no different than playing poker, which, by the way, poker would be probably more expensive to lose, and people sometimes get mad, just like everywhere else. But it's no difference than going poker. It's no difference than doing a bowling night. It's no difference than a lot of these things, and the cost is probably about the same or less, if unless you want to go whole hog. But it's like, oh, okay, let's go bowling. I
freaking love bowling, by the way.
Oh, that's great. but I mean, but that's
I knew that. For some reason I just absolutely actually pegged you as
I'm good too. I'm pretty good.
If I get over 100, I'm having a really good day.
That's good.
If I get over 100, most time I'm in the 70, the 60 to 70 range. But no, these are things that to me come into it. And to be fair, like we're talking about, it is going to use the bowling analogy. Where the pins are. I'm going to put the bumpers up so you don't get a complete gutter ball. You're going to take out a pin or two, but you may not get a strike. And away we go. And then after you roll your one thing for bowling, then we're going to play darts, and then we're going to play a couple other things during the game.
Raven, I'll see you in just a little while.
So yeah,
yes, there is a Monty Python role-playing game. I'll try and send you a link later.
Yep.
Actually, it says no, it isn't. Monty Python's curricular medieval reenactment program, a role-playing game. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
My game hurts.
But I think that's one of the things when we're talking about dimensions is I don't mind trying new stuff. I don't try going around. And part of me would rather, if I had the time, I would, if I was retired like Shadow, it would be one of these things like, okay, you know what? Once the boy would leave off for school, it's like, okay, guys, between 8 and 12, we're going to be playing, this game. And then we'll go to lunch. And then when he comes back, we'll do the family thing. It would be like, that'd just be day after day. And then guess what? Every day would be a different game. I don't have to play multiple dimensions. One day would be D&D, another day would be Traveler, and another day would be Alien, another day would be.
You know what? Have anybody done the whole like professional gamer? Like, hey, my name is Steve, and I'm a professional gamer. If you need a game, someone in your game, call me. Like $10 a day for an hour or whatever, and you go and play.
You mean a player, not a DM. You mean a player, not a DM.
No, a player. So let's say, so Omen wants to play Conan, right?
Yeah.
He's Jones to play Conan, and he called, hey, Jimmy, I want to play Conan today. He's like, all right, how many hours would you like to rent me for Conan? And he comes and he plays Conan, and thank you, Jimmy, and he walks off and whatever.
You know what though is
You know what? If I'm going to pay someone to come to my house to entertain me,
that's even better, dude. They can, you can choose the clothing that they wear.
You know what?
What color hair?
I can be a little bit different. Is I'll pay you to fumigate the house and do that, and then you have to play games afterwards. Now, what I heard is like that's what Bruce's plan was. Is he's going to create the little retreat, and everyone goes there to play games. But I could see that. They always talk about old folks' homes, and they don't want to play like bridge. Part of me goes like, screw you guys. We're taking over the entire place, and we're going to be playing like
sorry,
Twilight Imperium. The entire, that'll be like 6 to 8 hours, like
the
once
last
a week.
game you'll ever play.
It's like, when does your character die? Well, when the player does. They're like, what do you mean? Well, our players tend to die fairly often because they're old.
Hey, don't be putting that out there, man. I don't want to see any of my buddies. It's already bad enough I had to see 2 puppies that I never met that I still love pass away this month or the last 30 days.
I'm saying I think we're looking at the wrong way. We need to go find people in their 80s to go down there and say, look, I need 5 of you people who don't have like family that love you to go play Twilight Imperium with me. Okay, and that's what. Now thinking about it,
they would kick our ass. They'd all be a bunch of ringers, and they'd know the game better than us, and then they'd kick our ass.
I'm okay with that. I at least get to play like a giant board game.
I'm telling you, I'm still on this idea about like having a cadre of gamers that I rent out.
I can just see this. It's
great.
You know what? There are probably people like that, but I'm saying I think that we're doing this the wrong way. We need to go to old folks' homes, and we need to go.
You mean go to Florida and put up wanted posters in Florida for gamers? Gotcha.
No. You don't even have to put up wanted posters. Come on, you've got these old folks' homes. No one visits them. They're all as long as they're not giving them wrong types of drugs. It's like, look, I'm here. I have this giant board game. You guys have plenty of time to kill, before you die. We might as well like learn the rules. You know what? They'll probably tell their great stories about when they fought in Vietnam or something.
Owen starts investing in paupers fields and stuff.
I wouldn't have to do that. You know what though? Is if you're the only person going out there actually treating these people as human beings, maybe they'll give you some inheritance or something. But it doesn't matter. It's like, well, how did you get it? I played Twilight Imperium with them every weekend when no one else would visit them, and I would be sitting there.
I think you'd have to start small with something a little, You know, I
It's
don't
like
know.
Gran
Ogre.
Torino. At the end, he ends up giving all of his stuff to the family next door. You
Yeah,
ever see that? Yeah,
I've heard of it. I've
a great
No, I
movie.
mean start with a smaller game. You know, start with Ogre. You know, work your way up. Let's do Ogre.
Well, you know what?
It's a
You
good
know,
game,
most,
dude.
well, no,
Fun.
but you know, we're joking about this. You know, that's what Brian and I probably need to do. Is we need to go down to the old folks' homes. Like, who wants to play? And you know that. Well, you know, that would be kind of hilarious getting that whole thing in there. It's like, well, what's the most popular day? You know, for the inmates at the old folks' home. It's gonna be two things. When
There
they have
you go. Inmates too. That's a captive audience.
oh well,
Right?
I'm kind of afraid they're gonna shank you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. If I roll, you know, well, I don't want to get shivved. You know.
Yeah, or you know, those guys are table toppers too. I bet.
It's
Mad dog, mad. Oh man.
well, I mean, come on, we're not being imaginative. We keep on saying, well, we got to get the younger generation. I'm thinking, screw that. What we got to do is we got to go for the old guys because they got the time and they're captive. It's not like they can like just go wander around. The only problem is if they have dementia. I don't know if anyone's ever watched the presidents play D&D AI.
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, well, you have to. Well, it's got
that sounds awesome.
And Trump Paladon. Barman is the wood elf, and then Joey the cleric. Yes, it's hilarious. They're like, what the hell are you talking about there? Paladon, which is of course anyway. My whole thing is they're all at the right age, you know. It's like, look, you're 65 plus. Someone's put you in here, you know. It's depressing enough as it is. You can probably do magic tricks. Their eyes are bad. You can claim whatever you want on the roll. It's like, look, I rolled a natural 20 with their cataracts. They're not sure.
Not
you know,
sure.
come on. You know, we got everything.
That's crazy. Yeah, man. Shit. You go up there, take up something. Listen, I guarantee, I bet you like a retirement community would be probably responsive to like role-playing games. You know, yeah. They all get together and they create their new, you know, their new personality and they play it out. They're adventurous and they're chivalrous and young and virile, and I can see that being big in like, you know, older community like retirement communities and stuff.
Well, you know how we talk about wish fulfillment? It's going to be like, oh, and look, my granddaughter has visited me every week this year.
Oh yeah, they get a scroll wish or something, and it's like, I just want to see my son.
I say this knowing that this is probably my fate, but that's okay. I got to plan ahead.
That's freaking brutal, man. It's brutal because my mom was in one of those places very young. She was very young when she had to go because my old man, he passed away in his 40s, and I was there every single freaking day of my life until she passed away, from like 35 to 40 something. Every single day I was there because there was nobody else coming to visit, no other family, no other friends. It was, and so I like made friends with all the people there, you know, because I was there every day. I was just being nice, you know, and oh my God, those places are so sad. It's just the only place worse is like a sanitarium.
Well, you know what? But then, you know, that's what we need to do is we just need to create a charity that uses this as an excuse to buy all the role-playing games. We can now deduct them off of our taxes, and we can go around.
I can get behind that. I can get behind that.
And we can.
You know what though? It's actually not a horrible idea if you've got a place like that. You know, you never know. I mean, they may, you know, have something in their budget, you know, for entertainment, and if not, you could definitely write it off on your taxes.
I mean, just think about that. I mean, the ultimate reliving of their youthful lives in character on the tabletop, you know?
Well,
and you know, it wouldn't have to necessarily be role playing. I bet you could, you know, find some old farts that would be like, yeah, let's play some Broadside or something like that. You know what I mean?
Any
or
kind of
Fortress America, it would be even funny, if there was like, an Asian guy and a white guy, you know what I mean? And they're all just, you know what I mean?
Well, you know what I laugh at is when you get with the Chinese guys like, no, I am not playing Japanese. I only play German. But you know what? That would be kind of cool going for the whole thing in there. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, well, if I could, maybe I should do that over the weekends. Just go try to see if the old folks have.
Dude, if you had the time and you offered one night or one afternoon a week, dude, that would be pretty epic.
That would be kind of cool though.
And it has to be better than the board games that they've got. I mean, good God, who wants to play Candyland and Monopoly? Those are like no. I got a better.
Make like a cart. You just make a cart like a, one of those churro carts or something like that. And you just fill it with a bunch of games, and you go in, and then when you're done, you do your inventory, make sure no one's taking home the the thimble or the race car.
I know where you live, Eleanor. Give me that shit back.
Right.
Eleanor, no Jello for you.
Eleanor, stop hiding the card. Then you get the you don't look.
Can you imagine a game of Uno like that?
Oh,
with
that'd be cool, man. Shit, I'd throw down some Uno playing. I love Uno, man.
Well, all you have to do is do Exploding Kittens, with them, and a few others that are out there.
Cards Against Humanity. I bet you they'd have a good time with that one.
Wait.
You know what?
Wait. Old people don't have filters anyway. You don't even have to play Cards of Humanity. That's the whole point of it. Is what you do get is, how about Munchkin? Could you imagine them playing that?
Yeah, that'd be fun.
I mean, we say this, but I'm going. And a lot of them would like to have someone younger. It's like, look,
that's a great idea, man. Seriously.
You know what though? You know what? If you played your cards right, sorry for the bad pun, you could probably hit up like Monday through Friday a different place within driving distance and actually make some bank. If you weren't looking at making a lot of money, I'm telling you, these places have a budget for different activities. Hey,
Okay.
Shadow goes right for the commerce.
Wait.
He doesn't do it because he loves gaming. He's like, I want the money.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, I mean, there's probably, someone out there who could, use, that kind of, income level, you know what I mean? And, do something actually really good at the same time.
Hey, Brian, I'm not sure if you know, because he and I live real close with the library. They just got $1,000 for more board games to
did they
purchase? Yeah, that was one. And then the other one is that they had, he got a bunch of donations of games, but when you went in, he was giving away a few games. But everyone, just for Shadow and specifically, everyone got a little dice bag full of the 7 polyhedral dice.
Cool.
And so we just mentioned that because you see you don't have enough dice. So
yeah, I need to get Jackie some for his. He's got like a really lame ass hodgepodgey set that he he's gonna be dungeon mastering soon. I gotta start hooking him up. His birthday's in a month, and of course, you know what he asked for? Flags. More flags.
Well, okay. Which flags? That's the
a couple of custom flags.
Okay.
He's one of these days, Brian, you're gonna see him on the ballot, and you're gonna be like, I remember that kid.
Yes, but I didn't.
I was like, that's that kid with the Franco flag. I don't know about that guy.
He'll be running for the president of Mexico, because
there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I anyway. Hopefully, whoever stayed this long has really enjoyed our completely off the wall discussions.
We still got some crazy people here. And I hate to break it to you guys, but it is about that time. I got to prep for the Quantum Show with Nathan Allen. If you guys are into UFOs and Bigfoot and the paranormal and all that stuff, that's where I met Raven was over there. She's got her own radio show. I'm gonna have to get some info so I can post it. She's got a great radio show, and there's a bunch of crazy weirdos over there talking about all kinds of stuff. I have no idea what the topic is for tonight. But
Real
I've
quick
gotta-
before you leave, weirdness. World War Weird is a documentary show of like weird
I
stuff
saw
that
that.
happened during the. Have you seen them? Yeah, they're pretty sensational. It's pretty funny.
Hey, Brian, I'm going to ask
Yeah.
you one question. Is you said that there was going to be a convention out here at when is that?
Millennium.
I'll look it up.
It's usually in November. I'm not
Okay.
sure if it's going to be this
Yeah,
year.
isn't that ReaperCon?
Well, ReaperCon's up in Richardson.
It's a
That's only-
I don't know. It's up there. It's a Denton.
It's only like an hour or hour and a half away. I think that's coming up soon. ReaperCon.
But
Plug that in.
there's one right now. I think Big Mike from 10 Cars Tavern is doing it, and I'm going to be running a convention, hopefully in 2024, probably in Texas. So you guys are going to have to help me out with a good location. Something along the lines of VentureCon, not too big, not too expensive for the people, because there's a whole lot of people I want to meet in person one of these days soon. So keep you guys. What? I can't read that. My screen's the size of a freaking postage stamp.
No. I'm saying is ReaperCon is August 31st.
Oh, okay.
September 3rd.
So it's coming up.
In the Denton, Texas.
Denton.
So that's north
Denton.
of Dallas.
It's a northwest, I believe, of Dallas.
Yeah.
Well, if you take 35,
That's going to be a good one.
it'll
If
be
you
right
guys
up
can
there.
go
Yeah.
there.
I've been
and-
there.
and
I've been there a couple times. It's pretty good.
Go there and give Tenkar a hug for me. I'm working on a special little thing for him because he's been real nice to the channel. And if you haven't, checked out his Saturday Gamers Health video, of all the things he does and has done, that to me is the biggest thing that impressed me about him. Is that it's a show like this. There's not a lot of people there, and they just they know some stuff about health. His wife was in the medical profession, and huge hearts over there. One of these days, I'll get to do that. But if I do ReaperCon, I have to absolutely take a bunch of you guys to go do the tour of the Reaper freaking factory. I've
Pretty
always
cool.
wanted to do that, and it's not too expensive, and you walk away with a goodie bag for walking through the thing. And I'm a huge miniature guy, and they actually have some miniatures I created that they're getting ready to make molds of through another guy.
Really?
Cool.
Yeah.
Very
And
cool.
I want to get more into that. So I'm going to have Eli from Elfbait come on, hang out with us, and give me some pointers. But yeah,
Very cool.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah,
All right,
and
then,
Brian,
guys.
I want to talk to you later about something maybe we could work on together, because I
Okay.
need some advice for. I'm going to run a World War II RPG. Nazi dinosaur cults of Antarctica, and
Okay.
I'm going to need some pointers on gear and some of the things.
I'm all about. I know all of the Nazis' dinosaur gear. All their. I know the official TOE of all the dinosaur gear for the Nazis. I got it. No problem, man. All right,
All right,
guys.
guys,
Well,
I
I'll
gotta
bow
hit the
out.
road.
Good talking to
Great
everybody.
talking to you guys. I will see you guys, throughout the week. Can't wait to see your next video, Brian. And
Right,
say
guys.
hi to the wife. And Owen, give the little guy a hug for us. And, I'll see you tomorrow.
All right.
Unless
See
you
you
guys
later.
pop over to Nathan's channel. Otherwise, have a great night. Have a great weekend. And enjoy the heck out of your Memorial Day.
Keep it
It's,
weird, guys. See you later.
Yeah.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
That's great. I thought I was
That was
going
a
to
good
roll
show.
now for just complete.